All righty. NFL free agency day one is upon us. We have been
Brother.
nonstop flying throughout the day. Welcome into the three-man rush day one of free agency recap special show. I just came up with all that myself. I am missing my two normal co-hosts, James and Tyler. Both have prior obligations that they are taking care of. So tonight I am joined. Producer Johnny's coming from behind the booth, and he is there at the bottom. But making his three-man rush debut, my partner in crime on the Swarm, and y'all know him over on
Swarm.
the Houston Sports, the 713 Houston Sports YouTube channel, Ruben Calvillo. Ruben, how are we doing, brother?
Dude, I am doing great, and I have to say, this might be the first time I'm live all year. Hey,
Word.
let's I'm feeling dangerous, as they say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, since we are all three, and this is a great feeling for me because normally I do this show with a Jets fan and an Eagles fan.
That must suck.
It does suck because now I am joined by two fellow diehard Houston Texans fans. So
Swarm.
we're gonna start with the Houston Texans and what they did today, and then we'll get into some more of the NFL fallout from other teams. But we're going to start with the Texans and what they did today. Oh, start the day off signing Sheldon Rankins before we all wake up. And then we make a couple of, small signings. Derek Barnett, Braxton Berrios, run of the mill. We're used to Nick Caserio getting these, good value deals. But then the bomb dropped. Ruben, tell the people the bomb that dropped, and let's just break it down.
Yeah, let's break it down. And, just give me a couple of seconds to bring out the official tweet. But let me first say the balls on General Manager Nick Caserio to get this done, because I don't think
he's got a sack on him. For sure.
Any one of us had Laremy Tunsil being traded on our bingo card before the 2025 NFL season. And, you saw no signs of them looking at any tackles during the combine. The most visits were wide receiver and running back. And you get the bombshell news that the Houston Texans are trading Laremy Tunsil in a 4th-round pick this year to the Washington Commanders. And in return, they get a 3rd-round pick this year, Spencer. A 7th-round pick this year, John. A 2nd-round pick next year. And a 4th-rounder also. And that is it. That is all she wrote. Laremy Tunsil, you are no longer a Houston Texan.
We shall start our drives not 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage from here on out.
Yes, yes. That's the running joke.
So, Ruben, what are your thoughts? Just what are you thinking is the reasoning here? What's because you nailed it. None of us saw this coming. It really felt like they would add to Laremy Tunsil with him being the only quality offensive lineman from last year. Yes, everyone complains about the false starts. I get it, Johnny. You hate false starts. He's still a top 3 pass protector in the NFL, and those don't grow on trees.
You're going to be surprised how much I agree with you on this. As much as I complained about Tunsil all last season, I do tend to agree with you on this.
Yeah,
which is why I'm on the negative side of this trade, because Spencer, we've said it on the Swarm, we said it on my channel. I don't care how many false starts he gives me. I know that I am going to get at least elite pass protection from Laremy Tunsil. I know when he goes up against Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons, he's going to be able to hold his own and more likely than not win that matchup because he's shown us he can do it multiple times. CJ Stroud was the 2nd most sacked quarterback in the NFL, and now you are taking away Laremy Tunsil, which is, where I draw another conclusion that you don't make this move unless you have a for sure plan of what you are going to do. When I look at the names available in free agency, none of them excite me. When, are we going to go with a tackle in the draft? I'm not sure. But this is one of the most important decisions in your franchise, because you're protecting the blind side of CJ Stroud.
Can I chime in here for a second?
Go ahead, John.
Okay, as probably Spencer can attest to this just by, me and his text messages throughout the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
I was a pretty avid Laremy Tunsil hater last year. I said on multiple occasions, I want him off this team. There's no excuse for this kind of undisciplined play. And I have not changed my mind on that. I still think that. I do think that this move was 100% a economic move. They wanted to clear the big contract.
Yep.
And I feel like that part of it is justified. Do I 100% agree. He is an elite pass protector, and he was the best offensive lineman we had. However, with his massive contract, I do not feel like we were getting our return on investment there with his level of play. But where I agree is, what do we do now? What is the better option? That's what we don't know yet. I will say this. I'm a big fan of Nick Caserio. He's, in my opinion, he's made way more of the right decisions than the wrong decisions over the past couple of years. And for that reason, he's kind of earned my trust to a degree. We'll wait and see if these. It all depends on what comes out of these picks. If we come in and we draft another Kenyon Green with these picks and all that, then 2 years down the road we're like, this was a massive blunder. But if we turn these picks into something great, then it's like, hey, yeah, could we have gotten more? Sure, but look what we have now. So I'm not in the love it camp. I'm not in the hate it camp. I'm in the wait and see camp.
I think that's where I'm at. For me, I'm looking at.
We got no choice, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. I think throughout his time in Houston, Nick Caserio has made some, at times, eyebrow-raising moves. Some of them have worked out. Some of them have still kind of left us scratching our heads. But I think overall, Nick Caserio has earned the trust of the Houston fan base. I think we have to be patient with him, but he needs to have some kind of a plan here, because as it stands right now, today on March 10th, 2025, the offensive line is now worse than the worst offensive line unit in the entire NFL postseason that we saw at the end of the season that lost in Kansas City. You've now gotten worse since then. So there's got to be some kind of plan in place, because we went into the offseason with everyone's main goal being we needed to improve that unit, and we have done nothing to do that, and we have actually gotten worse. That doesn't mean that it's over and it's only day one. And so that's why a lot of the reactions, we just need to be patient, especially because we know that's when Nick Caserio does his cooking. We know he loves that second wave of free agency. That's when he really finds some bargains. That's when he got the Denico Autry signing, right? After that first wave, that's when he can sign some guys that are below the radar, and we just need to be patient. I'm sure he's cooking up something. He didn't just trade Laremy Tunsil for no reason. But there's another side to this too I want y'all's opinion on as well. Everyone on Twitter talking about the culture, talking about the fashion shows.
Is so happy Laremy's gone.
I'm not going to be one to say the people on Twitter are always right. They're definitely not. Definitely not. We're a bunch of idiots over there on the X everything app, right? But I do think it's a fair point that a lot of people are bringing up. Laremy Tunsil gets blown out at home on Christmas Day to the Ravens. First thing that he goes up on his Instagram story after the game, I got my cleats autographed by Beyonce. Ooh, and then every single week, win or lose, that Monday morning, you're going to see on his story, you're going to see his pregame fit with him looking all cute and fashionable. It's not really the essence of an offensive lineman. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I think he's a bad offensive lineman, but when that's your number one offensive lineman, it kind of sets the culture. And I think we looked at this offensive line last year and they were just a bunch of softies. And so if getting rid of Laremy Tunsil sends a message to anyone that's coming in or to the guys that are still here from that unit from last year, it sends a message that you got to toughen up. It's time to man up, and it's time to get in the trenches and do what you were designed to do. And that is move the damn line forward.
And that's where I agree with you because, and I've said this multiple times, when you talk about the swarm mentality, the spiritual work ethic, and relentless mindset, I said Laremy Tunsil doesn't have it, and Titus Howard doesn't have it either. And, you know, Titus Howard is the last remaining Bill O'Brien disciple, so who even knows how long he is a Houston Texan going forward, but I do think he is here for 2025, but
might as well ship him out at this point.
I mean, you know, might as well, but this was a huge move for the Houston Texans because you're in year 3 of CJ Stroud and you take away from him a 5-time NFL Pro Bowl left tackle.
And one that, by all indications, at least on his podcast tour last year, he mentioned how much he loved Laremy Tunsil. He was talking about how great he thinks Laremy Tunsil is. He would be his ideal left tackle. And so it's another one of those things. I have to assume he signed off on this. He knew about this, kind of with the Nick Caley hire as well. CJ Stroud is having everything run by them. And also, we mentioned the cap situation about like the cap relief we get from this. The Texans seem to really be preparing themselves to offer up $100 million in 2 years to CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. Everyone is only talking about the CJ Stroud contract that we have to give. And of course, that's going to be massive. But after what we've seen Myles Garrett get paid, we need to start preparing ourselves for the fact that we also have to pay Will Anderson Jr. as well. And he's going to reset the edge market. And so with 2 re-signings in a couple of years, that's going to take up probably close to about 35 to 40% of your cap space. And so for now, we really do need to be making some long-term investments that make sense financially in the long haul.
I'm looking at the comments here and everyone's saying, well, an all-pro is better than a Pro Bowl. You're absolutely right, but which all-pro is out there available? And that's the biggest thing is who is plan B?
Do you think that we're loading up on draft picks to make a potential, maybe a draft day trade? Maybe
But for who? Is it, Will Campbell? Is it Ahmad Mimbo? Is it, the guy from Ohio?
It could be just one of those things where it is a pretty solid offensive line class as a whole. From what I've read from scouts, they say that it's kind of top heavy though, at the tackle spot at least. There's some depth there though, but it's kind of top heavy. So what I'm thinking is maybe Nick has a couple of tackles that he really, really likes, and he's just going to see if one starts to fall enough. If it gets within striking distance of that 25 pick, he can package some picks up together, throw them up at a team, and move up from 25 to take whatever offensive lineman they've pegged to be the future blindside protector for CJ Stroud. I don't know. Maybe they're looking to trade back up into the first round and have like 2 first-round picks and still address wide receiver. But that's the thing for me now is you have multiple holes on offense. And again, I'm sure there's a plan here. I don't see the vision right now. I don't see the vision.
I don't either.
This is exactly why last year at draft time, I said we should have gone O-line in the first, or we should have traded back into the first round to get some of those first-round talent O-linemen that fell later than people were expecting. Because last year, I felt like we had a wealth of offensive linemen in the draft, and it's not too much less this year, but there's no Joe Walt. There's no, and which we were never going to get him anyways. That's not what I'm saying. But, there's not that level of guys where, last year you had Talise Fagua. You had all these other guys that were falling down. And I was like, come on, Texans, get back into the first round and get one of these guys. And now, with no Laremy Tunsil, no Shaq Mason, we should have done that probably.
Yeah, and commenter Joe Duke, he brought up something good that I really want to point out. He mentioned that it's better to get away from a player a year early than a year late. Isn't
Very
that what
true.
they say? And I think that's might be why we're having trouble with this trader now, is because the last time we've seen Laremy Tunsil, he has been great, but everyone's great until they ain't anymore, and you never know when that's going to hit. Now, I'm not saying that the Commanders are going to get a bad player in Laremy Tunsil.
No.
But you want to get ahead of it, and I think that's what Nick did. I think Joe
How
hit it on
pissed
the
would
nail
y'all
on the head
be
there.
if his false starts went away?
Oh my god, I'd be so freaking mad. If he doesn't on opening day have 2 false starts, then we lost this trade.
Or even worse, what if the new left tackle? What if Blake Fisher's the left tackle week 1 for the Texans, and he just picked up from his predecessor, and he has the same problem with that scheme? But hopefully, I think for me, I'm just going to peg those false start problem that he had these past 2 seasons. I'm going to blame him on Bobby Slowick. We're going to scapegoat Bobby Slowick for everything.
Okay.
That's kind of my mentality. I don't know if that's logical, but that's what I'm going to do. And I encourage everyone else to do the same. It's all Slowick's fault.
Well, now that you brought that up, here's what I will say. And I forget who you said made the comment about year early rather than a year too late. I 100% agree. And one thing that is encouraging, whether or not you agree with this trade or not, I'm happy that we have a team and we have a general manager that recognizes something is wrong and are doing something about it. Granted, we may not agree with their method of handling it, but they knew something wasn't right. So what do? We get rid of Bobby Slowick. Okay, what else was wrong with the team last year? The offensive line was abysmal. All right, we're getting rid of 2 of those guys. Like, they are making moves. So I would rather swing and miss than just settle for the status quo.
Yeah, I agree.
I just don't think Laremy Tunsil is a status quo type of guy.
Yeah.
Like, and I just think that's what a lot of people are kind of, really like letting go over their heads. Like, this is one guy who has a lot of excuses because of how great he is at one thing, and that is protecting the quarterback. And I've seen this with David Carr. I've seen this with Deshaun Watson. We saw it last year with CJ Stroud, him throwing his helmet on the ground against the Green Bay Packers, and he went through a month straight of career high in pressures every time he went back to pass the ball. If you already had one of the worst offensive lines with Laremy Tunsil, how much worse does this offensive line get? Is Cole Popovich, who is now not only your offensive line coach, but also in charge of your running game coordinating, can he handle both? Because if this offensive line is horrible again, we have bigger problems.
Yeah, that was priority number 1 in the offseason. For me, there was 2 things I want to see accomplished. Pay Derek Stingley, make him the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. I'm still confident that's going to happen at some point this offseason. I was thinking we might get that today, especially since we got JC Horn re-signing. That's just resetting the market. I'm kind of like, hey, Nick, like let's get a move on. Let's not end up like the Bengals waiting to pay our players. Let's pay them now. But that's number 1. And then number 2 is improving the offensive line, and especially in the interior. Well, now they still need to improve the interior of the offensive line at the guard spots, but now you have a hole at the left tackle spot. And let's wrap it up this conversation like this. If they don't do anything else, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are we if they do go with what I've seen floated around on Twitter today, which is going with Blake Fisher at left tackle and then moving Titus Howard back to right tackle? What's our confidence level 1 through 10?
5.
6.
See, I'm going with like a 4 because I think
Who's
another
your
year of
interior?
internal growth.
Who's your interior?
Yeah. Who knows right now? Kenyon Green is still on the roster.
Like, if your interior is Jared Patterson at left guard, Juice at center, and a rookie at right guard, my confidence is going to be at a 2. It might even be at a 1. But I will say this: if you go and get a Will Fries, if you go and get a Kevin Zeitler. If the only problem you have headed into 2025 is just the left tackle spot, then I could live with that. Rebuild up. I'm sorry, like put all your resources into the other positions. Don't just go into the draft needing 3 new offensive linemen. Give me 1 or 2 new starters, man, and maybe the confidence goes up. But I mean, anyone who says 7 or higher is just lying to themselves.
Yeah. And again, it's worth reminding, it's day one.
And Brandon, we're not being dramatic because we saw C.J. Stroud pressured in almost 60% of his dropbacks in the playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Laremy Tunsil was like, this is what I'm not understanding what Texans fans, the sense of urgency needs to be at an all-time high. We're now in year 3. This is not year 1 anymore, and we're singing happy birthday to D'Amico Ryans on the first day opening training camp practice. No, we're now in the years where we're like, okay, we need to learn a lot from D'Amico. We need to learn a lot from CJ because it's year 3.
Yeah, comment section. Y'all drop scale 1 to 10. How are we feeling about the Texans offensive line going into 2025? Drop it in the comments. Scale 1 to 10. How confident are we feeling? Because again, it's day 1. Nick Caserio has a plan. I just don't know
let him
what
cook.
The hell it is.
Let him cook.
Yeah.
And
he did do some cooking today. He did some other things as well, and I do want to touch on some of those. I love what he did, adding the edges that he did. He re-signed Derek Barnett, and I really like the guy Darrell Taylor that we got from Chicago. Ruben, what do you think? What are you thinking about these defensive line moves? I mean, also bringing back Sheldon Rankins.
I think the chat's ridiculous, but I love the guys. Darrell Taylor, I'm excited. There is some unknown there. 27 years of age, and that's what I love the most. And I see a season of 9.5 sacks. I think he had 3 or maybe 5 this year. If there's anyone who can turn a player around, and we've already seen it, it is D'Amico Ryans. And if you find something in Darrell Taylor, great job, Nick Caserio. Sheldon Rankins, we knew this was a possibility as soon as we found out, that he was going to be released. He had one of his best seasons in his career as a Houston Texan, sack-wise, second most in his career. But like Cornelius said right there, the honeymoon period is over. You need to start putting yourselves in the conversations of the Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, and Buffalo Bills. And with this offensive line, without Laremy, you're not going to get there.
I mean, look, guys, I'm gonna kind of stick up for the chat here. You also we had one of the most expensive offensive lines in the league, and we were 31st in sacks. So I mean, like, I'm picking up what you're putting down on there needs to be a plan and everything. But if I'm being honest, with Laremy Tunsil, my confidence in the offensive line doesn't get much better. So it's like, shoot, let's try something. Let Nick cook.
Oh, I mean, I'm down, but it's
if we let him cook,
we're playing with our quarterback, man. We're playing with the franchise.
Yeah, this is important time because again, we have this offseason and we have next offseason, and then it's payday, and then we are strapped to the gills in cap space when we pay CJ Stroud. And again, we also have to pay Will Anderson too. That's a very, very fat payday that we have to give 2 guys, and there's not going to be a lot of money to move by then. 2 years. That's all we got before then. I also want to mention we brought back Sheldon Rankins. Ruben, I know that was one you weren't really super excited about when we previewed free agency.
Yeah.
Are you feeling any better on it now that it's a real thing?
No, because we knew like it was a real possibility when we found out he was going to be released. I've been saying it time and time after again. What you need is youth at the defensive tackle spot. I like it. And, I think that he could bring you some good reps, but I see Sheldon Rankins as a depth piece. I want to go younger at the position.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not opposed to it at all, but I'm not. Oh wow, we got Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah, and I'm of the belief that in NFL free agency, I'll sign anyone to a 1-year deal. It's 1 year. Like, let's just see what you got, and chances are good if you don't work out either preseason or the middle of the season, we can just cut our losses and call it a day, and there's no long-term ramifications for it. So 1-year deals, dude, throw them out like candy, man. I don't care.
Throw a 1-year deal out to anybody because you're going to sign and drop Desmond King like 5 times throughout the season.
Yeah, exactly.
Practice squad God right there, man.
Yes. Another thing I want to talk about, not really exciting, but they made a couple of unsexy signings at the wide receiver position. Not really the way most Texans fans wanted the position to get addressed, but we have our own version of the exciting whites brewing, y'all. We got Braxton Berrios and Justin Watson coming down to the H to play alongside Dalton Schultz. Man, get Kevin Walter back. Let's go. Let's get all the exciting whites back out here, man. Ruben, what can we expect, if any at all, from Braxton Berrios and Justin Watson?
Look, I wanted Braxton Berrios just a couple of years ago when he was a Pro Bowler as a returner. I also like what he gave you in the slot. I think he had a couple of seasons between 300 and 500 yards. So I was like, hey, Texans need a slot guy. Why not? 29 years old, coming off of an injury. I just think this is a John Mechie camp competition. Let's see who is going to be our slot guy. Our wide receiver 3 or 4. I'm not, that doesn't excite me, Braxton Berrios, but it's just a move that it makes sense for the Houston Texans because of how cheap it is. So, the moves I think we're going to see going forward are just moves that make sense for the cap. Maybe you get one, pretty decent free agent, and that's about it. But, Braxton Berrios, that doesn't really, that doesn't move the needle for me. It shouldn't move the needle for anyone.
Well, all right. Well, let me hang on now.
Okay. Let me bring up the numbers.
I'm not going to say this is a huge needle mover for me either. But with our current wide receiver room, which Diggs is still there, right? But he's going to be gone.
Diggs is technically
he's gone.
He's gone.
And with Dell not playing all of next season, so we get our 1 and 2, which is Collins and Christian Kirk, which I think is I'm a big Christian Kirk guy, so I loved that move. I think both Braxton Berrios and Christian Watson are an upgrade over John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. So for a move that was dirt cheap, yeah, like we still got Robert Woods.
Okay.
Do we still got?
I believe Robert Woods is a free agent. I could be wrong on that. Let me pull up Spot Track real quick.
But if I do think Robert Woods is better than both of these guys, so he would be ahead of them. But I mean, they're better than Mechie and Hutchinson, so I'll take it.
Robert Woods a free agent.
So John Mechie had more receiving yards, almost more receiving yards this year than both Justin Watson and Braxton Berrios combined. So I do not think any of those guys are better.
That is coming off of
or Xavier Hutchinson. You also add in the age factor. Both of those guys are years older than either John Mechie or Xavier Hutchinson.
I mean, we'll agree to disagree. I think I'd rather have. I've seen what I need to see. I'll give John Mechie the benefit of the doubt because of everything he's gone through. Obviously, I'll give him like 1 more year to show us something, But I mean, I've for the most part seen what I needed to see.
Is there maybe an aesthetic reason why you prefer Watson and Berrios to these guys?
their first guy's in, last guy's
It
out.
feels, there's
That's
some
what I'm
undertones
saying,
here.
yeah.
I'm just saying, we gave you
No,
numbers, and you still are like, I don't know.
Exciting
I'm not
white.
making any accusations here, John. I'm just wondering.
Well, it kind of sounds like you're throwing me under the bus
I'm
here,
just asking
Spencer.
some questions.
No,
I'm just
no.
asking questions.
Look, I want Xavier Hutchinson to do well. I have his rookie card, for God's sake. I'd love for him to do well. But I want new blood. I want new blood in there. I honestly don't really care who it is. I want somebody to show me something more than Mechie and Hutchinson have showed me over the past couple seasons. And I watched the Hard Knocks with the Dolphins, and I really like Braxton Berrios.
Yeah, and let's be honest. The biggest acquisition about Braxton Berrios is not Braxton Berrios. It's Alex Earl. Let's be real. She posted today, "Go Texans," but we got to teach her. Beyonce's Texas Hold'em is not a Houston anthem. It is not. We got to get her on some Tops Drop, some Mo City Dawn. We got to get her into some UGK. No Beyonce Texas Hold'em.
What you know about that?
Come on, Alex. Dog, I'm a seasoned white boy. Come on now. What you talking about? All right. Any other Texans moves to wrap up? I do kind of have one I want to mention, and we kind of talked about before we went live. Not a Texans move, but a former Texan got paid today. Eric Murray, the bane of our existence, is heading to the division rival Jacksonville Jaguars. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Is this how we're feeling?
I can't wait to see Braxton Berrios just torching him down the field.
Dude, shout out to, this is one where you have to give all the credit to Eric Murray's agent, because Eric Murray absolutely got the bag for where he is at this point in his career. This is what you dream of, is one final kind of big contract before it's all said and done. And I think the Jaguars are going to find out real quickly that, Eric Murray is better served as a backup instead of a starter in this league. But I am never mad about someone when they get the bag. Hey, Eric Murray, you were one of the last remaining essence of Bill O'Brien. Now it is only Titus Howard left. Congratulations on you getting the bag, buddy. Shout out to your agent.
And honestly, now that you bring that up, it kind of, that and the Tunsil trade together, could this have just been Cal maybe just being like, hey, let's just completely move on from
Bill O'Brien motherfuckers out of here.
Let's just cleanse this team. Let's sage the locker room. Let's get right. No more essence of Bill O'Brien. Let's just get rid of that. That was the teams that lost in the divisional round every single year. Let's get rid of that.
Do you think Tunsil was well liked in the Texans locker room?
No.
Like, I know he was one of the popular players, but do you think he was well liked within the locker room?
Man, just going off of what social media we've seen today with Joe Mixon and Titus Howard, I mean, I think they definitely, and we mentioned earlier, we've heard CJ Stroud speak glowingly of Laremy Tunsil in the media before. I don't know. To me, I'll never get over. And the moment I was completely out on the offensive line last year was the game against the Packers, where CJ Stroud got roughed up on the sideline and Jair Alexander started yapping in his face, and no one went to defend our franchise quarterback. No one. And that was sickening to me. A good offensive line would have taken the 15-yard penalty and shoved Jair Alexander out of his face. That is what a good offensive line does. But again, we talked about at the beginning of the stream, our offensive line was well established to be very soft. And
they got no swarm.
That's why we're getting rid of them. That's why we're cleansing it. We're changing the unit. We're going to get rid of them. And that's how I can kind of justify and be optimistic about the trade. But it's daunting. It's kind of like there's no stability for me right now. It's like we're treading water, and I don't know what's about to happen after this. I know Nick's got a plan. We just got to wait and see what it is. Again, day one, y'all. We got more free agency. We got the draft coming up next month, which, by the way, let's use that as an opportunity to shamelessly plug. If you are watching on 713 Houston Sports, I would love it if you would head on over to the Athletically Declined YouTube channel, drop us a subscription there. me and Ruben have a Texans show that we're going to start getting real consistent with called The Swarm. You'll hear all of our commentary on Texans Talk. Ruben's still going to be holding it down on the 713 Houston Sports Channel. Don't worry about that. But he's going to be making more content over on the Athletically Declined channel. So get us over there. Get us on Instagram. Get us on TikTok. Athletically Declined on every social media except for X, where we are Athletic Declined. But on April 24th, we will be doing a big draft stream. Ruben's going to be there. We're going to be hanging out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We're announcing it already?
We're not announcing what we have exactly cooking, but we are announcing that we will be doing our live stream because we've done it every single year at AD. The draft stream is our bread and butter, is our favorite event of the year. Before we aren't done yet, we're going to wrap up by going into some of the moves that were made around the NFL. Specifically, I want to get y'all's opinion on some of these quarterback moves.
Yeah.
So we had 3 big ones happen over free agency. Over the weekend, the big blockbuster deal was Geno Smith being traded from Seattle to the Las Vegas Raiders. And in return, Seattle now has inked Sam Darnold to be their franchise quarterback. And then the New York Jets have a new franchise quarterback as well with Justin Fields. Maybe not franchise quarterback, but that is going to be their starter for 2025. So my question to you guys, of these teams that have new quarterbacks, which team is going to be the most successful in their first year with their new quarterback? Will it be Sam Darnold in Seattle, Justin Fields in New York, or Geno Smith with the Raiders?
I think it's going to be Geno Smith because I think Seattle has gotten rid of DK Metcalf. They've gotten rid of Tyler Lockett. I believe, right? They got rid of Lockett already?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So all they have is JSN, which I am a big JSN guy. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, Sam Darnold and JSN, a stout offense does not make. And I think the Jets are still a dumpster fire. Sorry, Tyler. At the end, like, if the Jets are not successful, I'm most likely not blaming. I'm not blaming him for this because I mean he's been in bad situation after bad situation. But I just think Geno Smith is a clear upgrade over Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, and they're the ones that I think it makes the biggest difference right now. I don't see any of these teams making playoffs, but I think the Raiders probably have the best shot, especially if they can get 1 or 2 more free agents.
Okay, so you got the Raiders. Okay, where are you going with this one, Ruben?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Justin Fields. I do like Geno Smith. I just do think it's the unction over there, right? You have a veteran quarterback in Geno. You have an old ass head coach. But
there's a connection there too. There is
the connection there. But I just think that it's just not going to be very successful. And then you look at, the roster surround him, who's going to be his best wide receiver, Jacoby Myers. And, that's a hell of a downgrade from JSN and DK Metcalf. Why I think it's Justin Fields. Look who he's thrown to in Garrett Wilson. Look who he has at the running back spot in Breece Hall. And I just know that Aaron Glenn is really going to show a lot of faith in Justin Fields. And when a coach shows faith in you, man, you want to do everything you can to make them work out. He is also the youngest of the two. I think Justin Fields and the New York Jets might be very surprising next year. Sam Darnold is just going to have no help up there. But congratulations on him getting the bag. I just think Justin Fields has more weapons surrounding him, and I think him as a quarterback has the most upside.
I love it. We're going to give 3 different answers on this one. I'm actually going to go with the Seahawks, not because I'm a big Sam Darnold guy. We all know that, but I look at which of these teams is the most complete top to bottom, and we're looking at a Seattle Seahawks team last year that went 10-7 and only missed the playoffs because of a tiebreaker that was like the 3rd or 4th tiebreaker down the list. They were this close from being in the playoffs. Now I know they make a big change and they get rid of their quarterback and they trade their star wide receiver, but You mentioned it a little bit, John. If you were paying attention last year, DK Metcalf was not their number one. It was Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah,
they will add more weapons. They will shore up more things and make Sam Darnold have a more successful or a situation where he can be successful in. But the other side of the ball is what I like more. I like Seattle's defense, what they're making right now. They had a good signing today. I really like what they did signing Poona Ford. He was a very solid player last year. He was actually someone I was hoping maybe the Texans might pick up on the cheap. But he goes to Seattle. That's a very big pickup for them. And I think that unit up there, that Seattle team, if Sam Darnold doesn't look like he did in week 18 and the wild card round, and he looks like he did in the first 17 games of the season, I think we see the Seahawks back in the playoffs in 2025.
Jeez.
So as far as Sam Darnold goes, going into last season, I wasn't paying attention to Sam Darnold one bit. Going into after what he did throughout the regular season last year, I'm definitely paying attention now. But we also have to temper our expectations because while JSN, like I said, I'm a big JSN believer. He is not Jettas, and you had Jettas and Jordan Addison. You know, just JSN is a downgrade. So we'll see what other pieces they're able to add. I will say I'm paying way more attention to Sam Darnold this season than I went in last season. But we'll have to see. Was he a Jettas merchant? Time will tell.
Indeed. Any other big free agent signings that y'all want to break down? I know while we were streaming and we were talking about the Texans earlier, a couple of moves that went down just to catch us up. Najee Harris did officially agree to terms with the Chargers. Mac Hollins going to the Patriots. That happened a little bit before we went live. And the Panthers, they re-signed Michael Jackson. I don't think it's the same Michael Jackson, though. Probably not.
Well, not unless they brought him back to life. I don't know.
All righty, guys. Anything before we wrap this show up? Anything on y'all's minds?
This was pretty fun.
I have one question. Is this Justin Fields' last chance?
Absolutely.
As a starter, yes. He's always going to have a job as a backup.
I agree with that. That's my assessment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I agree.
All righty. Awesome stream, y'all. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of moves to break down. But day one was a whirlwind, but that's the life in the NFL day one. So thanks for stopping in and hanging out with us. And again, if you're watching on 713 Houston Sports, go hop on over to the YouTube channel for Athletically Declined and give us a sub there. We would really appreciate it.
Hop on over.
We are also on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, Athletically Declined. On X, we are Athletic Decline. So get us on all those social medias. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we're cooking up something special, y'all. So we'll see what the rest of the NFL offseason looks like. We have a lot of moves that are yet to be made. And we'll keep y'all up to date on all of our channels. So for Johnny the Dad at the bottom there, for Ruben 713 Houston Sports, I'm Spencer, a.k.a. Mr. Fancy. We'll talk to y'all next time. And until then, y'all take it easy.